Welcome to the Killer Innovation Show, the longest continuously produced podcast in history. Each week, Phil McKinney brings you the insights and strategies to amplify your creativity and innovation skills. Here's your host, Phil McKinney.
This week's guest on the show is Eric Yuan, founder and CEO of Zoom. Eric and I were at an industry event at my invitation. Eric joined me on stage virtually to have a fireside chat where I had an opportunity to ask Eric a wide range of questions. Eric is a well-respected engineer and innovator, having been one of the original engineers and ultimately becoming the VP of engineering for WebEx over at Cisco. He left WebEx and founded Zoom. During this chat at this industry event, Eric and I cover a wide range of topics, including COVID and what was its impact on Zoom, collaboration and innovation during COVID, and also the plans and directions of collaboration and innovation in the new features that Zoom is constantly introducing. We talk about the future of video-first communication, Zoom and its impact on telehealth, education, business. What does the future of work look like in a hybrid environment? And I asked him my key question as to what innovation does he hope to see in his lifetime that does not yet exist. But before we jump into this week's episode, I have a favor to ask. Can you like this show? Can you follow us on social media? And can you share? If you know of somebody who would benefit from hearing Eric's story, how innovation and collaboration in the world of online virtual events and virtual meetings and virtual activities, this is the episode you want to share. So please take this link, share it with others. We would greatly appreciate it. And with that, let's jump in to this week's episode. So, Eric, one of the questions I know you probably get asked or have been asked 1,000 times is, how well did Zoom do throughout the COVID? I think people were familiar with Zoom, but Zoom got weaved into everybody's daily life when we all got impacted by COVID in March of 2020. How did Zoom do from a product perspective? You were kind of out there ahead of everybody and became a critical technology for us.
Yeah, Phil, that's a great question. As you know, on a peak day in the end of 2019, our daily meeting participant, was around 10 million. Last March, April and March 2020, it all the way jumped to 300 million. So good news, we survived because of the product architecture. Because on day one, based on our design, we really, challenged us a question. Could our architecture survive if suddenly there's a 10 times or 20 times more traffic? That's one. Another thing, we also supported not only our own data center, but also we support a public cloud as well. So essentially, it's a hybrid architecture. If something, and really need some more traffic, we can add more servers from those public cloud vendors like AWS or Oracle Cloud. I think because of the two factors, and we survived. Otherwise, I cannot imagine, how we can survive.
Yeah, I mean, and you and I were talking in the early days of the COVID experience as you were seeing that kind of explosive growth. And I have to say, I was impressed at the ability to take on, because everybody was moving to Zoom, but other platforms. But Zoom got the dominant play with schools going on, at home, people having to work from home. The question I'd ask, next question I'd like to talk about is what could Zoom do with a significant increase in available bandwidth? If there was more bandwidth, not only to your data centers, but more importantly to your customers, to consumers, to businesses, what could you do with that? You did great with COVID, given what was in place, but as we go forward,
and we're delivering, multi-gigabits types of speeds. Is there something that Zoom can do with all of that increased bandwidth?
Absolutely. I still think the bandwidth is the number one important thing. You and I chatted last year, right? And when the pandemic crisis, hit us, we had to make a bold decision, meaning we had to downgrade the video quality from HD, 1080p or 720p to the 360. Because we wanted to be a good citizen of the community, right? Because the internet bandwidth consumption problem, right? So, and if we have enough bandwidth, first of all, video quality much better. And the second thing is a lot of features, I think, in the pipeline, like, telemedicine, telehealth, remote surgeries, I think AR, VR integration. I think you have to have enough bandwidth, right? That's very important. I share with you my personal experience last year. I have two, internet, service providers, right? And, Comcast, also AT&T. Even if I have two, sometimes the bandwidth is still not good enough. So, and I think, in the future, with more and more bandwidth, I think a lot of new innovation can be built upon that. That is extremely important for the future innovation.
Well, and I know at Zoomtopia recently, the Zoom user conference, you've made a number of announcements, but probably one of the more exciting announcements from the standpoint of just the explosion of support for Zoom is from your third-party applications. And you look at the catalog and it's massive. What's your thoughts about that application layer that not only, takes advantage of Zoom, but delivering some different kinds of experiences?
Yeah, so great question. So when we started, we wanted to build a good video conferencing application. Essentially, our goal was to become a video conferencing killer app company. And that's what we did over the past 10 years. Next 10 years, I would say will be even more exciting. We would like to transform our business to become a platform company. So meaning not only, do we have a video call like this, because imagine you and I, we turn on the video. If you and I, we do not see anything, I think this video conferencing experience is useless. How to bring other contexts to this video call, especially to support future hybrid work. You and I, we are not at the office, at the same time, right? How you can approve my experience report, or maybe before the meeting is over, what you and I can do, right, to enjoy, interacting with each other, like we play games together, right? I think we can bring in any kinds of business apps or the consumer apps to the video-centric interface. Essentially, Zoom will become a people-centric interface. We can bring in any other third-party, contexts to this interface. That's a vision of Zoom platform. Recently we launched a bunch of Zoom apps. I can tell you, I can easily, switch my virtual background. You and I can play a game together. It's very exciting.
Yeah, and in fact, I think there's been a couple of articles written about your view on travel, right? And this is even pre-COVID, and you and I've had this conversation, right? That your objective was to create an application that did not require you to travel, to be away from your family. You were definitely on the leading edge going into COVID of yourself, even during Zoom's IPO, of not traveling as a traditional, typical Silicon Valley CEO that is out there. And with those kinds of experiences, I know in the back of your head, because every time you and I talk, you're always asking about features. What features, should be added to Zoom? And you add features all the time. What are some features or some things that you think are going to be absolutely necessary to really bridge the teams together? I mean, you can run all the applications, you can do all the collaboration, but I think are there things that you would like to do, but are just limited by current technology constraints?
Absolutely. We often talk about why do we need to travel that often. Prior to COVID, I told you several times, I only traveled, business travels, and mostly twice a year. If I traveled often, something I think Zoom may not work, right? So, and also with greater internet, bandwidth with the technology like Zoom, I think there's no reason for me to always travel. I can spend more time with my kids together. Having said that, for sure, I think with in-person meeting, I think today's still better than Zoom meeting, because even if our vision is to deliver a better experience than face-to-face meeting, but we're not there yet. We really need some social interaction. Like Phil, you and I, we did not see for a while since COVID. And if we have, let's say if you and I meet in the Starbucks coffee, I will give you a bigger hug, right? And today we cannot do that, right? And you get a cup of coffee, I also cannot enjoy the smell as well, right? And plus, imagine any two person who can meet online over Zoom. And if they speak a different language, right, what we can do to leverage AI to support real-time language translation. Essentially, with technology, and in the future, Zoom can deliver a better experience than face-to-face meeting. After the meeting is over, we can automatically generate a meeting summary, action items, take the meeting notes. And, that's a world where we are going to live in the future, but we are not there yet. Not to mention with the AR integration, you and I feel like we're sitting together in the local Starbucks coffee. I think that's why we are very excited, to keep adding more and more technologies to truly make a video communication better than face-to-face meeting.
So one question I'd like to ask you, this is actually a question I actually posed to Brendan, your CTO, who actually has been a great partner with the cable industry as we were working through the early COVID weeks and months in the early days. But the question I always ask is, how can the cable industry assist companies like Zoom to innovate? Where are there opportunities with the cable broadband industry and companies like Zoom? How can we help you? How can we help you innovate?
I think first of all, you look at the Zoom's culture, right? We truly solicit feedback from our customers and partners like you and on the cable industry, and together, we can innovate. As I mentioned earlier, right? I think with enough bandwidth, right, and with the AR or VR integration, right, every call should be a minimum 720p or 1080p, right? And so, otherwise, you really cannot enable those innovations. Also, you look at the industry, like a vertical industry. Take healthcare, for example. I think a huge opportunity ahead of us. Telemedicine, telehealth are going to become mainstream, right? And also, you look at even for the senior remote care, right? Also, you need enough bandwidth as well. Not to mention for the operating room, right? And how to support a live surgery. Imagine a doctor here in Silicon Valley, can serve a patient. That patient might live somewhere in Africa, right? With enough bandwidth, and we can support a live surgery, right? That's for the the healthcare industry. For education as well, online education, and I think with AR technology, with every classroom should be equipped with the AR, device, and also like a Zoom rooms, right, and enable the HD quality. I think those kind of features cannot be done without the support of the enough internet infrastructure. Specifically, I think the cable industry, and that's why I think future a lot of new innovations, new features can be built upon this partnership.
Yeah, let's talk about the telehealth. You brought that up, and I know that Zoom played a critical role, and continues to play a critical role even as we get hopefully to the other side of the pandemic. But the role of the Zoom plays, and your thoughts on what does the future of telehealth looks like in the form of video communication?
I think telehealth. Whenever we talk about the healthcare industry, I suppose that's one area we feel very, very excited. Huge opportunity ahead of us. Even during the COVID, right? We all work from a home. We know there's no productivity loss, but guess what? The mental health is becoming a huge problem, right? Anxiety, depression, and how to leverage Zoom, right? And to address that, now patients, can be comfortable in their own homes and receive the care they need whenever they need it, right? I think, that's one area. Like another area, like a pharmaceutical development, right? At Zoomtopia, one of our customers, Bayer Marion, right, shared how they use Zoom to connect their 5,000 employees across 6 continents who work together on treatments for rare diseases, right? This is not a great example. Also, as we talk about the elder care, remote medicine helps home healthcare givers, which can allow in some patients the support they need to stay in their own homes, right? And also, the care person might live anywhere in other, places. Also, we talk about a surgery, right? How to support a live surgery. And at Zoomtopia, we have a customer, Medtronic, who brought Zoom into the operating room, right? So that medical experts, could advise on surgical procedures in real time. I think all those kind of use cases and are very, very, exciting.
Yeah, and in the case of the telehealth, I think everybody now has gotten used to being able just to have a normal conversation with your doctor and not needing to go into the office and sit in a waiting room and lose the travel time. So it also is that efficiency and taking down kind of the loss of productivity in between. What's when I think about Zoom, obviously in the business world, but probably one of the biggest areas that embraced Zoom early on, you were providing free licenses through COVID to school systems in order to help the learn from home. What are your thoughts about the future of education now with technologies like Zoom? What does the new normal look like, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, so you are so right on. And I think the two most important vertical industries, we focused on since the very beginning after our product was ready is healthcare and higher ed. I think, education, especially for higher ed, online education is extremely important. Like our first paid customer was the Stanford Continuing Studies Group. Today you look at it, the high school, or K-12, we never thought about, to offer the Zoom to K-12 schools because we thought the young kids, it's better for them to go back to campus. However, last year, given what had happened, we realized, we had to and care about the K-12 schools as well. And that's why we offered free service to more than 125,000 K-12 schools around 25 countries. Because our company value is just one word, care, meaning about care about the community, customer, company, teammates, as well as ourselves. To care about the community is number one important thing. That's why it's no brainer for us to offer the free service to help those K-12 kids. Also, by doing that, we also learn, wow, I think K-12 schools, they also can leverage Zoom to facilitate, online education. Take the university, for example. Quite often, I think you have, the students, they can come to the classroom. At the same time, you might have students who are willing to join online remotely, right? How to support the hybrid? I think the future higher ed classroom will be very similar to workplace, will be hybrid, right? Give the students, a flexibility, a choice. They can join anywhere. They can learn. Essentially, sometimes let's see students that are traveling, to other cities. They still can keep, learning online. I think that's a future very similar to the way for us to work. in the future.
Yeah, well, it's interesting when you think about the future of work, right? A lot of organizations are struggling as to getting staff back into the office, letting people work from wherever, or is there some hybrid structure in between? So talk about the future of work. I mean, obviously you've become a critical tool. You have a lot of insight into how your customers are thinking about how to keep that productivity level up with employees within small, medium, and large, and extremely large multinationals. What are you seeing? What is the new normal for work look like?
I think last year when we sent our employees, back to home to work, we were very concerned about the productivity because we never had that experience before. The good news was that there's no productivity loss after we sent all the employees back at home. Because of that, I think the way for us to work in the future will be very different. I do not think we would like to send all the employees back to office 5 days a week. I think our engineers, they are not willing to go back 5 days a week. Also, and we also have workplace, and plus working from home, and sometimes also will bring in the mental health problem because we are human beings. We need a social interaction. That's the reason why I think the future is really about a hybrid. Maybe 2 or 3 days in the office, 2 or 3 days at home. I think from high level, that's a definition of hybrid work. However, you are so right. To make it a hybrid work is not that straightforward. You need to make sure have a process. Also have the system to support that, and also how many days and how you pick up which day. Right, a lot of the smaller things you need to figure it out. I think the future workplace. Let's start from workplace, and the future of workplace will not be like today's workplace. The future of workplace more like a mentoring, a coaching place to facilitate group activities. I think that's very important. You really do not need to give every employee a desk anymore, right? Because not every employee will go back to the office at the same time. Plus, a lot of systems are not ready. I give one example, like a conference rooms. And today, if you have 4 people who join this call from the conference room, I join from home. Very likely, I will not be part of that conversation, right? How to leverage technology to make sure, even if I join remotely, and I still can see multiple persons and from the conference room, rather than just one view, right? And that's why we introduced the smart gallery features. A lot of features, we announced at Zoomtopia. For every feature, we always ask ourselves, could this feature support hybrid work or not, right? That's why we need to look at a new system, new workplace setup, new policy, and also we need to adjust that, in a timely manner, right? And sometimes, employee, they may not want to let you make a decision. You pick up 2 days for employee, right? Employee might pick up 2 days. That's why, a lot of, I would say the new things, right? We need to think about it to support the hybrid work. Again, high level of this hybrid work, but it's not that straightforward.
Well, for instance, I know a lot of CEOs that I've talked to that, I've have known over the years, and they're all struggling to try to figure out what does this work environment look like. One common approach that people are taking is that if there is one person in the meeting who is remote, then it's a video first experience, meaning everybody is on their own camera. I mean, it used to be that you'd have to have a laptop in front of everybody, in a conference room so that everybody was seeing everybody face on to a camera. Now, I know you've developed some technologies that having a conference room, I'm sitting in a conference room here in the Cox headquarters. I'd end up with 20 laptops on the table. And I know you have solved that. But before we get into that solution, talk a little bit about the role of this video first, the fact that if one person is remote, making them feel like they're an equal citizen at the table.
Yeah, today, actually, if you go back to the office, I think very likely you are not going to be the eco-citizen because the technology was not there, and you have to add the new technology, right? Meaning that's why we just mentioned a smart gallery, and you needed to enable that functionality. Otherwise, very likely, the four person who are sitting together in the conf room, they are going to drive the conversation, right? Because from remote side, you only see the one view, rather than you see the multiple square, right? And also, you do not want to let everyone to bring their own laptops to the conference rooms. I think how to leverage the technology, right? And with one or two cameras, right? And not only do we send out one camera view to the remote person, and also send multiple views. Essentially, from remote perspective, I feel like I'm part of the conversation because even if four of you are sitting together in the conference room, I see the 4 or 5 squares. It looks like all of us we are working from home, right? This is just the one feature, but in the future, almost everywhere, right? Every feature we should look at: could we support a hybrid work? Could we make sure everyone, no matter where you are, you'll be equal, right? And we collaborate or work together. I think that's a guiding principle for us to support the hybrid work.
Well, and I think it's going to be the guiding principle for everybody because I think the hybrid, like you said, employees are saying are speaking with their voice about what is it, how they feel they can operate the best, and where this balance is of productivity, the work-life balance, and having the social interaction. And it's really trying to juggle those three balls together. And how do we as organizations and how do we with technologies actually make that seem seamless? Question, let's talk a little bit about some of the other announcements at Zoomtopia. I can't even keep track of the upgrade feature list. What was it last year? Zoom released 300 new features into the platform. And Zoomtopia is a very popular event for people in organizations who really are looking at a video first kind of collaboration and communication platforms. So what were some of the highlight announcements that was announced at Zoomtopia?
Yeah, every year, we host our annual user conference, called Zoomtopia. And every time we are going to announce some exciting features, essentially just more like a one step further towards our dream to deliver a better experience than face-to-face meeting. Like, just last month, we announced a live translation feature. And, any two person, even if you speak a different language, and with AI, enabled live translation, we can support that, right? So, we are very excited about that feature. And also, again, as I mentioned, we would like to transform our company to become a platform company. That's how to support that, right? That's why we are doubling down on our Zoom apps ecosystem. We announced a bunch of brand new apps, like a Docusign integration with Zoom, Docusign Zoom apps. At the same time, we also are doubling down on our SDK business. Essentially, you can embed Zoom into your own business workflow applications or any maybe some consumer apps. We support a bi-directional platform. We can bring in your app to a Zoom ecosystem, which is called Zoom apps, or we can embed SDK to your application, right? So a lot of innovations around the platform. For sure, there's a lot of with smaller incremental features, like we talk about smart gallery, and also how to support the hybrid work, like a whiteboard as well. I think a lot of smaller features. Overall, the theme is very clear: to enable the platform to support hybrid work, and to make sure in the future we can deliver a better experience than face-to-face in-person meeting.
Yeah, and I think I wanted to point out that everybody, the thousands of people who are watching this session right now, you are actually watching an embedded Zoom experience inside of the platform of the event host. So this is an example of, as Eric is just saying, about using the SDK to take the Zoom experience. I'm on a Zoom client, Eric is on a Zoom client, but presenting it through the event host platform that we use from our event partner. So this is a perfect example of being able to take a Zoom experience and embedding it into an overall experience. And that's what Tech Expo will have over the next 3 days as everybody connects and collaborates and communicates. The one question I always like to ask, and whenever I do one of these interviews for my radio show is, we've been talking a lot about Zoom, but, Eric, you are, a well-known, well-respected engineer. You work at WebEx, you're founding and architecting the Zoom platform, and now leading, as being the guy, the person behind the scene who really set up Zoom as it is. I'm interested in your view, not of Zoom, but of innovation in the future. If you could sit back and just, had an opportunity to think about what innovation would you hope to see in your lifetime that does not exist today? What innovation would that be? What would be an innovation that you hope to see in your lifetime that does not yet exist today?
Yeah, thank you, Phil. I think, before I answer to that question, I would like to leverage this opportunity to thank everyone working in the cable industry. I'm so grateful. Without, the cable industry's great contribution, great work, there's no way for us to survive, since the COVID. And really, really grateful. I think back to your question, I think technology-wise, I think we are living in absolutely in the right time, because there's so many new things. I think that where we feel like there's a new technology that can truly help us to think about something we never thought about before in the history. Like space traveling, right? Nobody thought about it before. Like recently, Jeff Bezos, or others, right? And they traveled in the space. I think how to facilitate that, meaning in the future, more like a shuttle bus. I wanted to travel to the moon, right? And I can online order a ticket. Phil, you and I, we can travel together. I hate traveling, but I'm okay to travel to the moon, right? I think order an online ticket, tonight, you and I, we are going to have a drink in the moon, right? Technology like that will be very, very, exciting. And also the biotech as well. I think huge opportunity for the biotech. You look at mRNA technology. Imagine without that, we still stuck at home, without the vaccine, right? How to leverage the mRNA technology. Maybe, next several years, we can completely cure cancer, right? 100%, right? With nanotechnology, with mRNA technology, really understand how cells work, right? I think a biotech, even like a medicine, today, how to support a customized, personalized medicine, right? It's another area I think we can innovate, right? I think those technologies, right? I think also, another, area like, we just talked about, you and I can travel to the moon. What if we can explore the ocean, right? Rather than you and I will dive to the ocean to explore, right? How to leverage, the remote robots, right? From online, one click, we can send a AI-enabled, great robot, right? To explore the ocean. You and I, we can sitting together, enjoy that, to control that. I think, think about technology, a lot of new things. I think I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, and I, the one that I probably resonate with is space travel. Having grown up, in the first moon, race going up with Apollo 11, and then watching the shuttle programs, and now thinking about it that you've got Elon and Jeff and others now making a cost per liftoff at such a low price that it just can be transformative. And I think also I do resonate also with your talk about biotech, because I think human longevity, right? We all, would love to live forever. May not be the best thing, but the ability to apply technology to make life meaningful, to take away suffering, to equip people to have the best life possible, to be there for their families as they, supporting them. I think the role that biotech and medical and telehealth in general. At this event a couple of years ago, we had Dean Kamen on stage delivering a keynote in his role in artificial organ transplants, which I'm still absolutely amazed about, that you can do those kinds of things. So it has been, I think the technology just never ends. And to the benefit of Zoom is Moore's Law keeps moving forward, and the ability to get more processing speed at lower cost allows you to do more and more things.
Eric is a close friend. I just want to be transparent on this. He has been a sponsor of this show for more than 8 years. We've been using Zoom here in the studio to do our interviews with guests long before COVID. Eric's support of this show allows us to, one, just cover our basic expenses, server hosting, streaming, etc. Any money left over from the Zoom sponsorship goes to the nonprofits that we work with, Hacking Autism being the most prevalent one. And we want to thank Eric personally and Zoom as a corporation for their support of this show and the support of the nonprofits like Hacking Autism. He's also a great example of a CEO who just gets innovation. Over the last 12 months, Zoom has been averaging 300 new features a year into their product and platform. If you ever run into Eric in out and about, the first question he will always ask you is, do you use Zoom? And what new features would you recommend they look at putting in? He is focused on delivering a great product, a great service, and a great experience. And we just want to say thank you. And thank you for joining us on today's show. Your time is valuable, and we recognize that, and we never take your time for granted. And we strive to earn your investment. I'd ask you a question. How are we doing? Please let me know. Drop me a note. You can email me at phil@killerinnovations.com, or you can send me messages through any of the media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, etc. The other question I have for you is, what topics would you like to have covered? Are there guests you think we should have on the show that you would love to hear about? Are there topics or questions or challenges or things you just want to know about how to improve your own creativity, your own ability to innovate, and how to lead innovation efforts within the teams and organizations that you participate in? So let us know. And also, help us pay it forward. We started this show at the request of my mentor, Bob Davis. After I had achieved some success, I reached out to Bob to kind of just say, hey, thanks, and how do I pay it back? And he laughed and he goes, you can't pay it back, pay it forward. Find a way to pay it forward. We started this podcast in 2005. Yes, 2005. We are the longest continuously produced podcast in history. And when we started this show, it was all about paying it forward, sharing with others our experiences and other leaders in the innovation creativity world about how they achieve success, in hopes that you can find those nuggets and apply it to your own activities, your own careers, your own teams, your own passions. So help us pay it forward. Tell others about the show. Share links to the show. Like our post in social media. Help us get the word out. I would be greatly, greatly appreciative. Also, post a comment wherever you get this podcast, on Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify. We're now on Amazon. You name it, you can find the show. Post a comment. Let others know that you listen to it and what you think about the show. And with that, thanks. We will be back soon with another episode. Bye-bye.
Podcasting nonstop since 2005, this has been the Killer Innovation Show on the Innovators Network.